By the end of this video, we're going to be able to drag and drop these to-dos. And if we refresh, they're going to stay in the same spot. So the first thing we have to do to get drag and drop working is to install a package called Vuedraggable. So npm install Vuedraggable, and we'll freeze it at version 4.1.0. Okay, and now in todos.vue, we'll import Vuedraggable. So remember that our read, update, delete only handles one piece of data at a time, one to-do at a time. We're going to comment out this v-for loop, Alt-Shift-A, and we're going to implement Draggable here. Draggable also loops over every item. So Draggable vModel equals to-dos, item key equals ID. And I find this code not super readable, but we put a template in here. Template item equals element. And here is where we put back in read, update, delete. It'll loop over each one, even though it doesn't specifically say a for loop. And we'll give it the data to do equals element and save it. And let's see if it's dragging and dropping our data. It does. It drags and drops, but it snaps back. So we're getting partway there. ChatGPT got me to redefine how I get the to-dos in order to fix this problem. So we'll add get and set. And we'll say set value news page dot props dot to-dos equals value. Now again, this isn't very readable, but it should work. Let's check it out. So we'll drag this down here and it stays there. Pay bills. Yep. Drag and drop is working. So we can just delete this now, clean it up. And we'll just style this a bit so things are a bit clearer when they're being dragged and dropped. So we'll create a file called draggable.css. And we'll import it in app.css. Now there are some classes that are built into Draggable that we don't need to specify here, but we can just call in the CSS. One of them is sortable chosen. So if we've chosen a to-do, it'll have a background color of this purple-like color. And we'll give the text color white. Save that. Here we go. Now it's much clearer where it's being dropped. And there's also something called sortable ghost. So .sortable ghost, opacity 0.4, and let's see what that does. So it just kind of lightens up where it's going to land. And we can also add some animation which will make it look like it's bouncing around. And to do that, we'll go to todos.vue, just tidy this up a bit. And if we add animation, we'll set it to 200 speed, 200 milliseconds, I believe. Save that and we'll see what that does. Just makes things kind of bounce around a bit. Looks nice. So drag and drop is working. But if we refresh the page, Make Lunch goes right back to the top and all of them go back to their original spots. So we're going to add a position column to the to-dos table. So since we're still in development mode, we can just modify the existing migration. In production, you would make a new migration. But here we can just refresh all the data. So So if we go to create to-dos table, we'll add a column here, table, and this one we'll call it an unsigned integer because we want it to be an integer that has no negative sign on it, so there's no sign. And it'll be called position. And we'll just set a default to be 0. And then we'll go PHP artisan migrate fresh, which you would never do in production. And then -- seed. Phew. I always hold my breath when it's doing that. Okay, and we'll look at the table again, refresh it, and there's our new position column, and they're all set to 0 to start. And we'll go to our routes, web.php, and we'll create a new endpoint. It's going to be a put request for an update. We'll call the route reorder to-dos, and we'll put the functions for that in the to-do controller. And we'll call the function reorder. And then if we go to the to-do controller, we'll put in that new function. Public function reorder. Request. And for each to-do, we're going to update the position. So we can say for each request input to-dos as to-do data. And we've already imported this model here, so we can call to-do where ID to-do data ID update position, and then we'll say return back. So that's a big mouthful there. It's not super readable. So basically it's going to match up the IDs and then it'll update the position. I'm pretty sure ChatGPT helped me write that too. I didn't write it myself. Save that. Oh, it doesn't like something here. What did I do wrong? Missing a semicolon. There we go. So go back to todos.view. And we're going to have to import a couple of things. So we'll need a ref. And since we're not using a form, we're going to use the router to hit the backend. I never know what order to put these in, so I just always use alphabetical order. And we're not even going to need this fancy variable anymore. We're going to make something called draggable to-dos. We're going to use ref. And ChatGPT wrote this for me. So I'm not quite sure exactly how it works. Use page.props.todos.sort a b a.position minus b.position, and we'll call this variable in vmodel draggable to-dos, and we'll build a function to tell it to change the position at the end of the dragging. So we'll say function on drag end, and we'll say const reordered equals draggable to-dos dot value dot map item index arrow function id item dot id position index, and then we'll call this function in draggable at end equals on drag end, and then we'll hit that endpoint with the updated position. So we say router.put to /reorder to-dos reordered. Save. And if we look at the database right now, all positions by default are 0. But let's see if this is working. If we drag and drop something, let's move this down here. It went to the back end. We'll refresh it. It's staying in the same spot. And if we look at the database, refresh this, now they've all been assigned a position. So yay, drag and drop is working and it's saving to the back end. I'll have to move Go to Mars to the bottom. I don't think it'll happen too soon. But let's move Walk the Cat to the top. Yeah. And I'll just push this to GitHub. Okay, it's there. So next we'll do drag and drop with grouping. So we'll have categories, but first we're going to need to assign has many and belongs to relationships. So we'll do that next.